Honest people get screwed first. That isn't cynicism, it's physics. You follow the rules. You keep your head down. You help everyone who asks. You stay late to fix errors you didn't make. And yet, look at where you are. You are the one burnt out at 2 a.m. staring at a screen, while the loudmouths, the ones who do half the work and take all the credit, get the promotions. You feel a burning sense of injustice in your chest. You ask, why? I did everything right. I was good. That is your mistake. You think the world rewards goodness. The world doesn't reward goodness. It rewards leverage. To understand why you are suffering, imagine a logger standing at the edge of a forest. He is tired. He is paid by volume. He wants to go home to his family. He looks at a twisted, gnarled oak tree, one with thick knots, messy branches, and bark that looks like armor. That tree fought for every inch of sunlight. It is stubborn. The logger ignores it. Cutting that tree is a nightmare. It ruins saw blades. It takes hours to strip. It resists. Instead, his eyes scan for the pine. The straight tree, the one that spent its whole life trying to be perfect, smooth, and upright. It has no knots. It has no twisted branches. It stands alone, eager to please. That tree offers zero resistance. It falls in seconds. It processes into planks effortlessly. Here is the brutal truth you need to hear. When you pride yourself on being low maintenance, when you tell yourself, I'm easygoing, I don't cause drama, you aren't being noble. You are signaling to the world that you are cheap to process. You are standing in the middle of the clearing, screaming, I am frictionless. My saw blade cost is zero. Cut me down. Let's take this out of the forest and into your office. You have accidentally turned yourself into office Wi-Fi. Think about Sarah. You know her. Maybe you are her. Sarah is the office manager who answers emails at 11 p.m. on a Sunday because she wants to show she is dedicated. She picks up the slack when others drop the ball. She thinks she is proving her value. In reality, she is proving she has no price tag. Wi-Fi is essential. Yes, it connects everything. It makes the company run. But it is invisible. No one walks into a conference room, looks at the router, and says, thank you for your service today. No one appreciates the signal when it's strong. They just consume it. But watch what happens when the Wi-Fi stops working. When Sarah finally gets sick, or takes a vacation, or just forgets one email, nobody feels worried about her health. They feel rage. They hit the desk. They scream, why is the internet so slow? By making your energy infinite and free, you have trained people to view your exhaustion as a technical malfunction rather than a human cry for help. You aren't a person to them anymore. You are a utility that is failing to deliver. This leads to the most painful economic law of human relationships. Generosity depreciates. I call this the Tuesday rule. The first time you stay late to save a project, you are a savior. You get the applause. The boss shakes your hand. The dopamine hits. The second time, you are a team player. But by the 10th time, you are just doing your job. It's just Tuesday. You have reset the baseline. You have established a new normal where your extraordinary effort is now the standard price of admission. The tragedy happens when you finally break. On the 20th time, when you finally say, I can't do it, I'm exhausted, they don't look at your track record of 19 favors. They don't say, wow, you've done so much, take a break. They look at you with genuine betrayal. They say, you've changed. They say, I thought I could count on you. And the worst part is, they aren't faking it. They really feel betrayed. Why? Because you didn't train them to be grateful. You trained them to feel entitled to your servitude. You taught them that your no doesn't exist. So when it finally appears, it feels like an insult. But we need to stop blaming the lagers and the lazy bosses for a second. We need to look in the mirror. Why is it physically painful for you to say the word no? Why does your throat tighten? Why does your heart race when you think about disappointing someone? Let's be brutally honest. It's not because you are overflowing with kindness. It's not because you are a saint. It's because you are scared. You are running a survival script, likely one you wrote when you were a child. You made a secret covert contract with the world. It goes like this: if I am easy, if I fix everything, if I hide my needs and never become a burden, then you promise not to abandon me. You promise not to hurt me. It is a lie. You are trading your dignity for a false sense of safety. Respect is never given to the doormat. It is only given to the one who can lock the door. If you have no boundaries, you are a house with the front door wide open. Don't be surprised when people track mud on your carpet, eat your food, and sleep on your couch. You invited them in. You smiled while they did it. The signal you broadcast, the straight tree signal, doesn't just attract lazy people. It attracts predators. Narcissists and manipulators have a sixth sense for people who fear conflict. They don't hunt the jagged oak. They hunt the appetizer. They test you. It's like a game. It starts small. A backhanded compliment, a request that is slightly too big. A joke at your expense in front of others. They watch your face closely. Do you push back? Do you hold eye contact and stop smiling? Or do you laugh awkwardly, look down, and swallow the insult just to keep the peace? If you smile, you just confirmed you are prey. You just told them, my territory is undefended. They know now that they can push further. They will set up camp in your life. They will drain your bank account, your emotional sanity, and your time. And here is the kicker. When you finally collapse, when you have nothing left to give, they won't help you up. They won't feel guilty. They will simply step over your body to find the next compliant victim. The wake-up call usually comes in silence. You are burnt out. Maybe you are in a hospital bed, or maybe you just lost your job. Or maybe you are just staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., feeling entirely empty, and your phone is dead. No one is checking on you. The people you serviced for years are busy finding new Wi-Fi. It hurts. It feels like the world has ended. But listen to me. This cold, lonely moment is the best thing that ever happened to you. It kills the fantasy. It burns away the nice person delusion. You finally realize that the forest doesn't care if you are good. It only respects leverage. You have spent a lifetime planing yourself smooth so you wouldn't give anyone splinters. Stop it. The axe is always coming. It's time to start growing some thorns. You think growing a backbone is going to feel empowering. It won't. It is going to feel like you are dying. The first time you actually prioritize yourself, the first time you look at a request and silence your phone, your brain isn't going to applaud you. It is going to scream. It is going to tell you that you are being selfish, that you are being cruel, and that you are about to be abandoned in the cold. Your heart will hammer against your ribs like a trapped bird. That isn't your intuition talking. That is the withdrawal symptom of a bad habit. You are detoxing from a lifetime of people-pleasing, and your system is in shock. So, how do you survive the detox? How do you stop being the straight tree without turning into a villain? The first step is silence. Right now, you are a digital butler. You have trained yourself to jump at every buzz and ping like you are defusing a bomb. You are terrified that if you don't reply in 30 seconds, they will be mad. You think that if you aren't instantly available, they will find someone else who is. Stop it, unless someone is bleeding out in the ER. Let the text rot. Wait an hour. Wait 3. This sounds petty, but it is actually psychological warfare. When you force people to wait, you create a vacuum. For the first time in years, they aren't thinking about what you can do for them. They aren't thinking about how to use you. They are panicked. Is he mad? Did I say something wrong? Why isn't she answering? Good, let them sweat. In that silence, you just shifted the power dynamic from eager assistant to CEO with a closed door. You signaled that your time is an asset, not a free sample. Now that you have their attention, you need the no. Here is where 90% of recovering nice people wreck the car. They say no, but then they vomit out an excuse to soften the blow. They say, "I cool and help you move this weekend because my car is making a weird noise and I have a dentist appointment." You think you are being polite. In reality, you just handed them a weapon. A manipulator will look at you, smile, and say, "No problem. I'll pick you up, and the dentist is closed on Saturdays." Trapped. You just gave them the authority to judge your excuse, and you failed the trial. The Ironwood does not negotiate. You do not need a Dr. S note to decline an invitation to a party you do want to attend. Next time, try this. "I can't do that. Why? It doesn't work for me." That period at the end of the sentence is a brick wall. It signals that your time is private property, not a public park. When you stop doing the low-value grunt work, people stop bringing you their garbage. They realize they can't dump it on your lawn anymore because the gate is locked. But I need to warn you about the noise. When you start doing this, it is going to get loud. Psychologists have a fancy term for this called an extinction burst, but I call it the tantrum. When a toddler screams for candy and the parent says no, the toddler doesn't nod politely and walk away. They scream louder, they kick the floor, they escalate the drama to see if the old key still turns the lock. Your circle is going to do the exact same thing. They will gaslight you. They will say, "You've changed." They will say, "You're getting arrogant." They will say, "After all I did for you, this is how you treat me." Your guilt will flare up like a fever. You will feel like a monster. You will want to apologize and go back to being the Wi-Fi signal, invisible but always connected, just to make the screaming stop. Do not move. Hold the line. This anger isn't a sign you are failing. It is proof the medicine is working. It is the sound of parasites realizing the host has cut off the blood supply. If you fold now, you teach them that abuse works. You teach them that if they just scream loud enough, you will submit. But if you hold the line, if you stare at that tantrum with cold detachment, you break the cycle forever. As the dust settles, you will notice your circle getting smaller. The people who only loved you for your utility will leave. Let them go. They were never your friends. They were your customers. But the ones who stay, the ones who say, "Okay, catch you later," those are the ones who respect a person, not the service. This brings us to the final truth. You have to be dangerous to be good. There is a massive difference between being good and being harmless. A rabbit isn't virtuous just because it doesn't bite. It creates no damage because it can't, not because it chooses not to. A rabbit is just food. If you want respect, be the wolf. True virtue requires power. You need the capacity for destruction. You must be able to fire a client who disrespects you. You must be able to cut off a toxic family member. You must be able to let a crisis burn to the ground if it is not your job to put it out. When you have that power, the power to walk away, the power to be dangerous, your kindness becomes a gift. When you help someone, it is not a tax you pay to exist. It is a choice you make from a position of strength. And people feel the difference. They value the gift because they know you could have withheld it. The tree that bends for everyone gets turned into IKEA furniture. It is cheap, replaceable, and forgotten. The tree that stands its ground, that grows thick bark and sharp thorns, that tree becomes a landmark. It provides shade and shelter, but it does so on its own terms. The logger walks past the gnarled oak. He knows his saw would break against that wood. Stop waiting for permission to exist. Lock the gate and let them walk past.